Yeah, thank you again for everyone joining us today for this quite interesting talk. I have a fantastic guest with me. Jan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to join you today.
Oh, I'm happy to have you here as a presenter. That's awesome. So I think everyone was a little bit informed about that. It's about startups, it's about healthcare and some exciting stuff. But looking at your titles, you're a Senior Director of Digital Ecosystems at GE Healthcare. Wow. Entrepreneur sounds interesting as well. I guess also quite challenging sometimes. Digital Utopian and head of Edison Accelerator. Tell me more about you. What are you doing on your daily basis?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? What you just described is much longer than I would describe what I do at healthcare. I'm Steffen, a global medtech corporate. Look, what I'm doing is I'm responsible in Europe for our digital partnerships and innovation, right? In a nutshell, this is what I'm doing. It's a lot about collaborating with other companies in our space, right? Starting from the big tech, right? Technology providers, infrastructure providers, solution companies we work with, really with the aim to join forces and drive the digital transformation forward. Right, and one of the type of stakeholders that are very important for this digital transformation are those innovative, agile startup companies out there. This fantastic digital health startup ecosystem that exists in Europe, we have to leverage, right, to really bring digital transformation forward. So, yeah, this is what I would like to talk a little bit about with you today.
That's interesting. I just posted for everyone who just joined. Look, I posted Jan's profile link on LinkedIn for everyone who wants to connect with him. I'm sure he will be quite interested to get in touch with all those guys who have something interesting to share. And so, but I'm always interested in why do people do the stuff they're doing. So since this sounds like quite interesting job, I'm more eager to know why do you do that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Look, I'm in this digital health space since about 15 years now, right? And we, maybe some of you know, we are trying to digitalize healthcare since quite a long time, right? With some successes here and there, but with a lot of mistakes and failures in other areas, with a speed of transformation that is rather slow compared to other industries. And there is a good reason for this, because as you know, it's a highly regulated industry. It's a people business. It's about our lives, our health. It's about patients. We have to be careful. All the stuff we implement, all the solutions need to be validated, need to work properly. And therefore, right, adoption of technologies, the transformation itself is rather slow. But look, the last couple of years, right, and especially also the COVID-19 pandemic, has given really a push, and it was like a wake-up call, not just to our industry, not just to the healthcare domain, but also to governments, for example, to really, I mean, bring this to the table and make this a top agenda item for them. So in a lot of countries, we see now new regulations. There is now a momentum, and it's a good moment to bring this forward now, and a lot of new players joining the market and enter the space to do things. But coming back to your question, actually, look, I have started right, like what I mentioned 15 years ago, with very kind of, from today's perspective, very simple things like implementing telemedicine, right? Like teledermatology solutions from, and especially actually in the German military, where we implemented like teleradiology, teledermatology capabilities in those places in the world where the army is operating, right? And get access to expert clinicians in Germany at that time. And this is where I started, because I thought, hey, this is something very exciting. This is an exciting space. You can really make an impact. You can really help people elsewhere where you don't have like expert physicians, expert doctors. And this is where I basically started. And then look, as I think the most of us, right, we have our own personal experiences in the healthcare, in the medicine space, good or bad. right? You have friends, family members who are sick, who have diseases, who fight with cancer. And right, this is also kind of a personal story. When you have such experiences in your closer circle of friends, or in my case, in my family, with my dad being a stage 4 cancer patient the last 3 years, it's tough, right? And especially if you know that, right, digital technologies, when it would be implemented and adopted already today, this would have made a difference, an impact, right, in a variety of different areas. And this is what is driving me. It's not about, right, you mentioned, it's not about startups. It's not about kind of this innovative spirit here. What drives me is the digital transformation itself, right? We need to get this done for all of us, right? To do things better, to get things better, and of course to help with all those massive issues the industry is facing as well. A big one, right? I'll talk later today about in another panel, workforce shortage. Right? On when you think about other geographies in the world, access to healthcare is a big problem, right? And this can be solved to some extent with digital technologies. And then more, right? Like efficiency, productivity, better quality, and ultimately better patient outcomes. I think this is something, and those are the areas which are driving me, right, to get involved and wake up every morning. And I'm really happy to be in that space, because sometimes I feel like we can really make an impact to millions of people actually every day.
I think that's probably also a good motivation for anyone who's going to join the healthcare space by just launching an opportunity, having an idea in mind. I'm sure, since you deal with innovation in total as well, that you probably do your market research to see what kind of things are more important or more driving at the moment. What kind of trends do you see? If you would be asked for what do you see the biggest opportunities at the moment for startups in the healthcare domain, what would you say are the biggest things?
Yeah, I mean, there are different things, right? Because what we see, right, and especially when you mention startups, what we see right now is a trend that a lot of fantastic data scientists, developers, engineers coming from other industries and want to do something in healthcare, right? Because they want to use their expertise, their experience, and really make an impact. And you can make an impact in the healthcare segment. Yeah? So they are coming, and they come with an outsider perspective very often, right? They have novel ideas, even if they are not fitting very often, right? There's sometimes not a market fit, but when we couple them with clinicians, with healthcare professionals, and bring those two worlds together, we can achieve great things, and we can solve really the pressing problems of healthcare. And there are plenty of opportunities, right? I mean, AI is a big thing, which is going to make serious impact in healthcare the next couple of years. This is something I'm going to talk about a little later. But also when you think about technologies such as, right, where we are really looking forward to, like 5G, 6G, to enable the medical Internet of Things. This is something very interesting and will help big time.
Interesting. So you have the head of Edison Accelerator as well, which is the subject for today. I think I just take the floor and tell us a little bit more about that and what we can expect here, and when will it start and everything, which might be interesting for us.
Thank you very much. And look, I think we are a small group. If there are any questions, just right when I'm talking, just feel free to raise your hand, interrupt me. Happy to get into a more conversation type of session here.
Yeah, thank you for moderation. That's fine.
Let me share my screen. And I mean, I don't have a lot of slides, but I feel always when there is some visual in front of you and not just kind of voice, it's always a little bit more engaging and interesting. Look, in case you can see my screen, I hope you see a slide on your screen. What is written here is called Edison Accelerator. Just to clarify this term, first of all, as I mentioned, I'm with GE Healthcare, a big medtech innovator, right, focusing primarily on like medical imaging devices, MRI scanners, computer tomography scanners, ultrasound, X-ray machines, all this good stuff. But since a long time, of course, we are also working on, let's say, connecting those devices with each other, connecting clinicians with a patient, clinicians with a referring doctor, and so on. So really building around a digital ecosystem around our solutions. And the term Edison, right? I mean, Thomas Edison, the founder of General Electric, long way back, and we are using the brand Edison for all our efforts around artificial intelligence. Yeah. So when you hear Edison in context of GE Healthcare at some point in the future, again, this is our efforts around AI. So look, what I would like to show you here is, first of all, a corporate acceleration program, but it's much more than this. And I'd also tell you why. I mentioned already a minute ago, right? There's a lot of like buzz and great momentum right now in the healthcare space, right? As I mentioned, a lot of regulation has changed. In Germany, as a good example, we have the so-called Krankenhaus-Zukunftsgesetz, right? Really a regulatory kind of trigger to innovate and get solutions really to the street, into the hospitals, get them adopted. So a lot of things are happening right now. And I also mentioned there are those great data scientists, engineers, developers also coming from other industries. Usually what happens with those corporate acceleration programs, right, that exist in each and every industry, what happens is that the big corporate comes up with some, let me call it, fancy ideas, and then tries to find innovative startups to work on those. This is perfectly fine. This is something that works very well in a variety of different industries, but I don't believe this works well in healthcare. And I'll tell you why as well, because what we forget in our industry, and again, right, highly regulated, the people business, it's about human beings, it's about our health, it's about data, right? Personal data, social data, patient data, it need to be secure and safe, highly regulated. So what we need to do here is, right, when you want to run such an innovation acceleration program, it's not enough when you just have the corporate and a couple of startups. You need to involve those who deliver healthcare day in and day out. And this is what we do in this program. We bring together healthcare institutions, right, work with them initially, define specific problem statements, and I come to this in a second again, right, define specific pressing problems they have in their day-to-day healthcare delivery, and then try to find the right startup companies to address those, right? And then bring the startup team, the clinical team on the healthcare provider side together, right, in a collaborative environment, and let them build and integrate and basically find a solution for the defined problem. And then at the end of the program, GE Healthcare's kind of power and capabilities came in, because then we can take this startup product and help commercialize it. Because as I mentioned, we are operating in more than 160 countries. We have a large installed base of healthcare institution customers. We have a large global sales force. And this is the interest for the startups then, because we can really help them accelerate their commercial kind of activities.
Jan, just out of curiosity, of course, some practical questions. So accelerator, where is it located? Is it an international thing? Is it just one country, or what is it?
It's a very great point, Stefan. So the idea always, right, and the idea always was, we want to innovate at the bedside. So that means, right, and the ideation for this program started prior to COVID. So we always wanted to put those startups we onboard to the program into the hospital and let them work in a real clinical setting, because then they really see how things work and how everything operates, and they understand the processes. But with COVID, this was not possible so far. So it's a virtual program so far, but over time, we are very keen to see how we can make this work, what I just described. So it's a virtual European-wide program.
So any company can actually, any startup can apply to it, and
absolutely.
Basically, it will take place in one country, or just where does it take place?
I mean, it takes place virtually across Europe.
Virtually, okay.
Right? So for example, from last year, we have a startup out of Denmark working together with a large public healthcare institution in the UK.
Fantastic. Cool.
And this is easy because it's software, right? We are talking about software development.
Yeah. And do you have to be at a specific stage as a company, as a startup?
Yes. I come to this in a second. Absolutely.
Oh, good, fantastic.
Yeah. So look on this slide, what you can see, just to briefly summarize kind of the high-level objectives of this program. First of all, as I mentioned, and also really what drives me as a person, we really want to push the digital transformation forward. But even as a big player in the healthcare or medtech industry like GE Healthcare, we can't do this on our own, right? We really need to join forces, collaborate with bigger companies, but also with the startup companies. And we want to work on specific, right, use cases, on specific problems, and this is what really one of the objectives is. So we don't want to kind of innovate and build something because it's cool. We want to really address and solve existing pressing problems. The second is, and this is again what I mentioned already, where we really can help as a big player in this market, right? We want to support those innovative startups and really help them with especially the market access. And then, as you can see, and I show you a slide in a second, we really want to, and this is something where the healthcare technology industry has to kind of go through a mindset shift a little bit. We have to collaborate with even parties that in the past we would have called competition. Yeah, we want to grow really an innovation ecosystem around us that consists of software vendors, healthcare institutions, other institutions. I show you an example in a second, to really join forces on specific kind of use cases and bring this forward. And then also very important, right? Often those kind of or innovation programs, right? You have an idea and then it's unclear, and if you ever get it to the street. For us, it is one of the most important objectives and KPIs is that whatever we build and work on and integrate and whatever we do, we have a kind of a short-term kind of turnaround. So we want to get it into hospitals. We want to get it as quickly as possible in real use in a healthcare setting. So that's the idea. Jumping to another slide, just and very quickly, right? I don't want to confuse you with too many visuals, but what you see here is like the stakeholder map of our program as of today, and this map will grow quite a lot throughout the year and the next couple of years. But just to describe you the different stakeholders we have today, on top or on the upper left-hand side, you can see GE Healthcare. We run this program. We provide a variety of different, let's call it mentoring services to those startups, right? Not just technical and business mentorship to these young companies, but much more. As an example from last year, there was a startup, or let me call it a scale-up with us last year that was about to grow their organization. And they came to us and said, hey, look, guys, you have such a large global team, such a big metrics organization. Can you help us to kind of shape in the right way how we kind of grow our organization when we scale, right? And we brought in a couple of our human resources leaders from across Europe, and they helped this company to kind of get to the right approach, just as one example. But way more than this. What we also provide is, and this is a key component of the program, we provide access to what we call the Edison Digital Health Platform, which is first and foremost a data aggregation platform, with which we as GE Healthcare want to address one of the fundamental issues that exist in healthcare today, which is data is siloed, even in a single hospital, right? When you have been in a hospital several times, your data is not sitting in one data repository, but in several. And for a clinician, for a doctor, it's very hard to get to a holistic patient picture, because data is sitting in different data management system repositories in different silos. And Edison platform is kind of consolidating this, aggregating this, and our startups integrate to the Edison platform. Yeah, and this is what we want to do. We want to integrate their technology with GE Healthcare technology and then go to market together. And in addition to this, as you can see here on the slide as well, at a later stage in the program, we provide access to our global customers. And this is what, of course, those young companies are interested in. They want to get their first sales done. One example from last year, one of our startups got their first customer in the US through our program. Yeah, so this is really something we can help with. Was there a question?
I'm just asking, so you said last year, so you have already started, yes? It's
yeah, I mean, it's a program that runs like once a year, 6 months long. I showed this to you a little later, right? We need 6 months to prepare it always. Important because, again, we work on specific use cases, specific problem statements with a group of different smaller, larger hospitals from across Europe. We need to get to those partners. We need to work with them in ideation workshops on those problems. Then we do a proper scouting with due diligence. So 6 months of preparation every year and 6 months of program delivery. But I come to this in a second again.
okay.
Yeah. So last year was kind of one edition of it. Now we are in the midst of the preparation for the 2022 program. So on top, you can see startups. I mean, as I mentioned, right, they are asked to work on specific defined problem statements throughout the program. And then on the right-hand side, you can see healthcare provider institutions. So hospitals, yeah, private hospital chains, imaging centers. So those are healthcare institutions we usually work with. And they do different things in this program. They, for example, as I mentioned, they provide or help us define those problems we want to work on because they know it best. I mean, we as a big industry player have a good idea of what can be solved and how can we do things with digital technologies, but they know better their pressing problems. So we start always with a problem definition with them. And then when this is done, we go and start scouting. And then those healthcare institutions help with what I call clinical mentorship, right? They are close to those technical startup guys. They can steer and influence the development. And then at a later stage, they provide opportunities to run like pilot or proof of concept. Mm-hmm. So and then you can also see, right, familiar brands like the big tech, AWS, Intel, our partners in this program for a variety of different things. Those companies help us with like technology, components, and infrastructure for our development sandboxes. They help us with our mentoring program, right, for specific areas. They are part of the mentorship curriculum. We have a process with both companies in place because also those big tech companies now run their own healthcare accelerators where we review their participants and alumni and ours and then see if some of those companies fit to each other's programs and so on and so forth. And then on the left, just to close the loop here, you can see two institutions which really focus on startup collaboration activities. Yeah, Wayra is Telefónica's innovation arm, if you will. They do startup acceleration for a variety of different industries, but they are very strong in healthcare. They have a dedicated healthcare scouting team, and we work with them. It's a great collaboration to really drive and run this program. And Health Venture Lab is an institution based out of Budapest in Hungary. They do also startup acceleration, great relationship with them, and they help us a lot also with creating awareness and so on and so forth, running events, etc. So right in this map will grow over time. I think this is really just a start. But look, beside, of course, the startup companies, the most important stakeholder here are those healthcare institutions. And we have two different, just very quickly, I don't want to kind of frustrate you with too much detail here, but this is important. As I said, we want to put together those clinicians, right, healthcare professional nurses in some cases, with those startup, with those tech guys. And when we do this, we believe there's a good chance that they can solve the problem defined. But there is also a risk, which is when we just have a single healthcare institution working with a startup, they can build a solution, but maybe that solution is so tailored or like individual solving needs for this specific hospital that we cannot scale it, you know? And therefore we said, hey, look, we need to have like another pair of eyes watching from the outside. And this is what we call here on the right-hand side consulting partners. Those are other healthcare institutions, maybe even in another European country, that can also steer and influence the development, but like watching from the outside and helping us that the solution is built in a way that we can really scale it and deploy it in different settings and different health systems across Europe and optimally globally. Yeah, so this is very important to us, very important to this program. So let me maybe just very quickly tell you a little bit about the size of and the dimension of this program. And therefore, I want to show you this slide. And when you see this, you maybe wonder, hey, there is a big number, 350 plus, and then on the right-hand side, I just see 4. And this is by purpose. So look, and this is from 2021. We had a huge interest from the especially healthcare AI startup ecosystem across Europe. Early last year, when we launched the 2021 edition, you can see we had more than 350, actually close to 400 applications to the program. And then we spent a decent amount of time and effort to do proper due diligence and select just a small number of companies, 15, which we then invited to what I call an assessment day, where we invite all our partners, all healthcare institutions we work with, and then let them present, let them pitch, and then we all together select in a big jury the startups we want to onboard to the program. So, and this is important. You can see we just onboarded 6 companies out of this large pool of 350. And the reason for this is that we want to put all our energy, effort, capacity, money we have for this, right, the funding, into a rather small number, but do everything we can to make them successful. Yeah. And again, it comes back to what I showed you earlier on the objective slide. Short-term turnaround and really make an impact, right? So I don't want to it's not our aim to do some kind of marketing buzz and stuff. We really want to get work done, right? Technical integration work, validation work, and therefore it's more effective. We have learned to work with a small number because then the outcomes are much better. So you can see we onboarded 6 startups, and now we are now working with 4 of those startups from last year to finally commercially integrate them to G Healthcare. And very soon, the first of them will be available for our sales teams globally to be sold to customers. And then, of course, startup gets revenue, we get some part of the revenue, and the startup companies have a good start into their sales. So this is the idea behind.
I mean, looking at the numbers, I think the story which someone could see as well is not like, hey, it's about, it's just only 6 from 350. It's more of a story like from the 6, 4 made it to the commercial part.
Yeah.
That's basically 80%, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is interesting. And as a startup myself, but in a different sphere, I'm not in healthcare. Yeah. It's definitely interesting because I know this is a full-time job, right? So when do you have a break? It's in the morning hours, not evening. So it's a full-time job. And if you're part of the accelerator program, we actually want to have some kind of full dedication from the other side as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We can really get the boost here.
Absolutely.
But Jan, just help me to clarify that again. And Frank, I'm going to ask a question a little bit later. I have it, I have seen it, and I will ask it. So coming to the process itself, really to understand that. Since you're going to select startup and you're going to have some pre-market interviews and checking for problem statements out there. Mm-hmm. So this seems to be it reminds me a little bit maybe of SAP IO, which has a focus on specific kind of markets they're trying to address. Yeah. Not just like you can apply an accelerator doing something, but you have a very focused. And if it's right. Yeah. It's a focus from a problem statement. So you just say we do something, but we come from a problem. Now we find the best suggestions for solutions. Is that correct?
Exactly. Right. So basically, what we always try to do is we publish as specific as possible problem statement to the startup ecosystem, right? And then really ask them, hey guys, are you working in this area? Do you have something in this area almost ready, or do you have an idea? Reach out. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and maybe to give you an example of what we have been working last year, I can also later show you what we are going to do this year, but just to give you a sense of what it is about. So our program always works in 3 work streams simultaneously, right? So you can see 3 columns here, so 3 work streams that always consists of a program team from G Healthcare, but also 2 startups and then 1 or multiple healthcare institutions. Yeah. And I mean, as I'm talking here to AI guys, it is focused on, let's say, getting healthcare AI technologies really into the clinical usage. This is what we are focusing on. Yeah? And let me just very briefly talk about those 3 areas, which are pretty interesting. So the first column you can see here which is something we are also going to work on this year in a similar fashion as well, is about a pretty interesting, let's say, problem actually. And I mean, as you know, AI, and I don't know how many of you really know the healthcare space, but when you read about healthcare AI, it's nowadays a lot about imaging, a lot about computer vision, yeah, a lot about radiology, analysis of radiology images. And today, we have a situation that there are about 200 AI algorithms available for clinical use, right, which are validated, approved, in our case, either FDA approved out of the US or have a CE mark, so commercially available for hospitals to purchase and implement. 200, right? And you know this better than me, for very narrow niche use cases. And those 200 algorithms are coming from more than 50 different vendors. So, and this is a problem, and I tell you why. Because what we want to achieve with artificial intelligence applications is to get to more efficiency, more productivity, better quality, and ultimately better patient outcomes. Yeah, and picture this: the doctor who analyzes your medical images, your MRI scan, computer tomography scan, X-ray, is a so-called radiologist, and they are sitting in front of a digital workspace since about 15 years now. Right? They have their tools, they have voice recognition since a long, long time. They are pretty digital. And now what is coming to their kind of existing environment that they are used to and pretty kind of streamlined processes use, now those kind of AI algorithms come in for very niche and narrow use cases like plugins on top of your existing system. And all of those different vendors, right, 50 plus I just mentioned, have a different approach to user interface design, user experience. And when we don't do it right, so technical integration of algorithm output into those existing systems the radiologist is using, we can easily end up, right, and we just do a kind of a light integration somehow, we end up in the opposite. Less efficiency, less productivity, less quality, because when I analyze a chest case, for example, I use a different AI algorithm as for when I have a look to a head, to just be very simple, right? And then the AI kind of UI looks very different, and I have to learn different steps and so on and so forth. So it can be much more cumbersome. And this is what we try to focus on this first work stream last year. How can we take AI results from such a startup company and kind of visualize it and kind of integrate it as seamless as possible in the existing tools the radiologist is using. This is very important, especially for the adoption, because those doctors who are using AI already since a long, long time, those radiologists, they don't accept when there is additional clicks or additional workflow steps, they wouldn't accept this new technology. Yeah? So very important to do this really seamlessly to get to the results I just mentioned. The second work stream last year was all about how can we, and you can read this on the screen, really reduce waste, right, with digital technologies and AI, especially in the oncology care pathway, right? So all about cancer. What can we do to improve the situation here? And you can see a couple of examples. And on the right-hand side, we were focusing kind of fully on the healthcare consumer, on the patient. Yeah. So how can we, and maybe, I don't know how this is in Switzerland. I'm sure much more like 21st century style compared to Germany. But, and maybe you remember this yourself. When you have been in a doctor's office, right, or in a hospital for a diagnostic or therapy appointment, sometimes you get a questionnaire, yeah, to kind of give feedback about your experiences. And I mean, I know from myself, it's often a paper document, which also sometimes just ends up in a trash bin when you have filled it out. So what we did here, we wanted to kind of gather this patient experience somehow in a 21st century manner, right, with technologies like NLP or wearables, data ingestion, and so on, and then visualize this feedback in an actionable manner in front of the healthcare staff. So in a nutshell, those are the three areas, right, quite specific, we have been working on last year. And just, right, to close the loop, very quickly, here you can see the 6 fantastic start and scale up companies we have been working with in those 3 areas last year. On this page, very quickly rushing through, you can see the 4 awesome large healthcare institutions from the UK and Spain we have been collaborating with last year. So was really a fantastic collaboration. But
can you go back to the startups for a second again?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay, what kind of stage were they?
Yeah, I mean, I can send you all the slides actually, right? So different stages, right? So the most of them were market ready, right? They already had some products already out there, but what they were missing was this kind of integration piece I was mentioning. Yeah, we had one early stage in the middle, Sprite, very early stage company. Vine Health on the lower right hand side, a pretty successful scale up in the UK, but all fantastic partners. But look, and this is important for me to also highlight, right? In such a innovation program, it is not about those companies. It is not about GE as a company. It is not about like Manchester University as an institution that collaborates. What is really important to make a program like this a success is that you find the right individuals on each stakeholder side that are also like driven and passionate, are interested to drive the digital transformation forward, that you have a same or similar objective. And when you find, and we were lucky so far to find the right individuals in all those institutions I just mentioned, to get together, work with, and really drive the ideas and things we had in mind forward. So I think it's really more about people, more about individuals, like-minded, driven, to make programs like this a success. Look, just in case you want to know a little bit more about this, and again, I can share the slides, no problem at all. We also have a website, which you can see in the lower left-hand corner. But what we did last year, we put together a couple of videos that are now on YouTube, right, to give you a more detailed overview about this program, where we followed basically the founders of those startups through our program. Have a look if you are interested. And then I just mentioned, right, it's about, of course, innovating. It's about cooperating. It's about integration. It's about technology, but it's also, again, about the people who are involved, right? And you, again, if you find the right people, you can achieve great things. And when we finished our program last year in November, we didn't do, right, like a lot of those acceleration programs do, we didn't do such a demo day where the startups get on stage and pitch. This was not so interesting for us. For me, it was more interesting to spend time with invited guests, right, which you can see here on the screen, and of course talk about technology, of course talk about the startup solutions, but much more talk about the collaboration, right, of all those different stakeholders, how we work together to achieve the results, the success we achieved last year. So this was like mid of November. We called this private showcase event, where we invited healthcare institutions, venture capital, other technology providers, our partners, to Madrid and London at the same time, and for people to attend virtually. And we had a fantastic day here, really talking about co-creation and collaboration. But then, of course, just to close the loop on 2021, our companies then also went to a large healthcare event called Giant Health in London, end of November last year, and went on the big stage and had a chance, of course, also to present their products and solutions. So, right, in a nutshell, this is really what it is. And if I just jump to this, and I don't expect you to read through all this, but of course, there is value, and then there needs to be, right? I mean, in such a multi-stakeholder program, you need to provide value to each of those stakeholders. And there is value and interest for healthcare institutions to come and join us, right? Because again, maybe one of the most interesting ones is that we want to solve a solution they really have in their day-to-day healthcare delivery. But there's more, as you can see on the slide. Now, there's of course value for startups, right? And as I mentioned, it is access to our digital health platform. It can be access to data from those healthcare providers. I mean, you guys know this better than me, how important data is for AI development, mentorship, pilots, all the things I mentioned. But more importantly, at the bottom of the slide, really this commercial engine, right? Commercialization, and then really get them exposed, marketing, have a sales force that helps to sell, and so on and so forth. And look and this is, I mentioned this already, I don't need to show this to you, but really the concept we follow is we get together, right, define some high-level use cases we as a company strategically want to work on in the healthcare domain. And then we take those high-level themes, go to our healthcare institutions, say, hey, look, guys, is this something like virtual health is a big buzzword today? Is this something you are interested in working on with us? And if so, what specifically could we do together here? For what do we need a startup involvement? We define those problem statements, then we go out, scout for the right companies, and then we run our program. And when I say run our program, it is twofold. Yeah, here you can see 6 months prep, 6 months roughly of delivery. And when you have a look here to program delivery, this is primarily two things. One is what I would call venture support. All this good stuff around mentoring, coaching, connection, networking with venture capital, all those good things that usually such acceleration programs provide. But the second work stream in here is really this technical integration, right? Really technical hands-on work, put things together properly, and then followed by a commercial integration. So this is how our program looks like. And is there a question?
Yeah, I think a lot of questions.
Okay, great.
Just because before we continue, because you have been talking, I'll come back to your slides, the last two slides, in a minute as well. Frank also had some questions. Frank, I just gave you the right to speak up yourself. I think your focus was a little bit more on the part of the system you're building, right? The ecosystem. Frank, you want to ask a question directly?
Yes, thanks. Interesting presentation, thank you. So I think you answered a little bit the first one. You mentioned cancer as an important problem, but I think the more important question for me is I learned that this mindset of efficiency has followed us for 100 years or so, and I learned that this is being slowly replaced by scalable learning, so that we become good at learning from each other. And I'm curious to know how you orchestrate that. What learning platforms are you using, and how do you enable that people learn well from each other?
Yeah, no, this is a fantastic point. But look, efficiency is, first of all, is still a pressing day-to-day problem in healthcare, and efficiency driven by the fact that we have across the globe, right? In some countries more than in others. I'm not even talking about the third world, but the shortage of the workforce in healthcare is pressing and is growing, and will reach, if I'm not mistaken, like 80 million healthcare professionals will be missing globally by 2030, if I'm not wrong, right? So this is really the driver to work on solutions and think about automation, think about efficiency, productivity. Yeah, but you're absolutely right? How can we enable kind of learning, right, and information sharing? And I think this is something we have to kind of build into, let's say, the foundation of the software solutions we develop. Yeah. So how can we make sure that when I do things that it is like usable and can be leveraged by my colleague? Yeah, I think this is something very important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank, for asking questions. We have one more. I just joined. Tial, I would allow you to speak up yourself as well. Do you want to talk, or should I ask a question for you?
Hi, this is Jia. I'm from Los Angeles. We're a startup located in Los Angeles. We're working on solutions of automation of treatment of COVID-19 to solve the exact problem of clinician shortage. So is there any focus on COVID-19 for this year's program?
Yeah, not COVID-19 specifically, but right, anything what is about efficiency, workforce shortage, when you address this area, we would be interested to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
So the next question would be, when can you apply?
Yeah, very good question. So look, we are going to open up the application form next week. No, the week after, on 9th of May. 9th of May. On the website, you will find, we'll post this on LinkedIn and Twitter and everywhere. On the website, you will find more information about in what stage we expect startups to be and much more details. Yeah, and maybe
Shia was just talking before from Los Angeles, would like to apply with her company. We should go over application route, or is it just this way to go? Yes.
No, I mean, the right way would be to apply formally on the website when we launch on 9th of May.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to you, request specific information and so on and so forth.
Regarding, so there's a lot of time which goes into developing the projects, the commercial part of it. Is it something which is financed somehow, or is it just like an investment which startups take to get in the kind of business?
Yeah, good, very good question. So, and this is important to clarify. We are not paying startups to join.
Yes.
Yeah, because we believe, and I mean, the experience has shown we are providing a lot of value, and right, also the stage of startups we are looking for, right, again, get to a short turnaround time. So we are looking more to close to market ready type of startups. They have other needs rather than like a little bit of funding. Yeah, and we can again, the biggest value we have seen so far is really this commercial engine we can provide.
Honestly, I think this is the part I've seen. So we have been part of the EY as well. You don't get paid, of course, but because the investment is usually on the part of like the program which is offered. So this is fully.
Yeah, exactly, right. The program, we provide mentorship, always tailored to their needs, right? We don't have like a standard mentorship curriculum that we distribute and run every year again. No, what we do is when the startups join, we have a welcome week. We start talking to them. Hey, what are the areas and things you would need help and mentorship? And then we run and go to our large pool of mentors from a variety of different institutions, by the way, not just G Healthcare. But as I said, right, Wayra, AWS, Intel, EIT Health here in Europe as well, a large institution with a massive mentor pool. So for every problem, we'll find the right people. Yeah.
Interesting. So looking at the program itself again and what you're doing, so it's since you're helping to get into the market, you mentioned something like a revenue share at one point. So, so you have a kind of commercial model which says, okay, we help you to do the sales stuff as well. We help you to get access to the clients. Or
so yeah, I mean, very good point. And this is basically very very simple. What we want to get to as of today is we want to ultimately get to a solution that can be deployed, right? It can be sold, and we want to get to a distribution agreement with the startup, meaning we can sell this as part of our portfolio. The startup can, of course, sell it also on their own, of course. There is no exclusivity, of course, but we can add this to our portfolio, to our list of apps on top of our digital health platform. And then our sellers in different countries where it's available can sell it there, right? And then the startup gets revenue and GE gets a small part of the revenue as well.
I mean, it's a good thing because I personally, again, my startup perspective is that it's cool to have a platform which has market access. So you can lower the pressure on doing the marketing sales a little bit at some point. So to focus more on the solution side and developing the product offering for the market. I'm completely fine with that. And every kind of revenue share, I'm fine with that, definitely, because of your large access, which is cool, right? Which is just cool.
Yeah. And I mean, here on the slide, very quickly, those are the three different areas we are going to work on this year, right? Yes. This is kind of the themes we are going to start scouting in a couple of days. On the left-hand side, all kind of solutions that help us really tackle this big problem of workforce shortage. In the middle, right, something similar to what I explained earlier on. How can we orchestrate and seamlessly integrate those great AI solutions into existing digital clinical workflows? And on the right-hand side, something pretty interesting and relatively new in our space. How can we enable healthcare institutions, especially those academic institutions like university hospitals to build with their own data science team to build their own AI, by providing a platform to do this. So this is like the third area. So when you are a startup, providing tools for performance measurement of AI models, or when you work in the space of explainable AI, this is the right kind of work stream to look into for you.
So looking at one of my initial questions in the beginning, and Frank also asked what are the 3 most important problems in healthcare you want to help to solve, and looking at the things you're just proposing here as your goal for this year, I would say this is quite early stage of the healthcare market, just learning what to do with AI, right? We don't have the people. How do we get the people? How can we work together and learning how to use AI?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because what you also need to understand, and again, I mean, you are much more like the technical experts on the AI side than myself. I'm more a clinical process type of person. I understand the healthcare space, but it is early days, right? And in healthcare, I mean, maybe there are other industries where building and being successful with AI is also challenging, but there are many industries where it's much easier, right, to build AI products. In healthcare, it's pretty difficult. It's a lengthy process. You need to get your solutions CE marked, FDA approved. You need to get them validated. It's a huge investment. It's not easy, and therefore it's early days for us. And look, what I've been talking about so far is primarily not everything, is primarily computer vision, which is relatively, as you know, relatively simple to get to, right? But when it comes more to like process optimization, predictive analysis, and those kind of things, with healthcare data, this is much more challenging to get to solutions, but much more important and rewarding and much more value. So the direction will go more into that space going forward.
That's interesting. So we have been talking about startups so far, but you said you're open to partners as well.
Yeah.
We're talking about the industry for a second. What kind of partners are you looking for?
I mean, any kind of partners, right? So like technology. So technology providers is one, right, that are interested in such a collaborative ecosystem. Healthcare institutions, of course, always. Other acceleration programs are always interesting for us. We have different partnerships with other such programs where we join each other on different events and that kind of thing. So basically everybody in the space, right? Everybody who feels like, hey, there is a potential value and I can contribute to this ecosystem, right? So give and receive I would be more than happy to talk to.
Sounds interesting. Just because what comes to my mind, I would like to connect you with two programs. One was the EY Academy, because I found it personally very helpful in just trying to figure out how to prepare yourself as a startup. So it's complementary to what you're doing. And the second thing is Tech Boost from Deutsche Telekom, which is the infrastructure program where we actually got 100,000 euros for running the infrastructure, which was cool. So it lowered the pressure on the investment side as well.
Yeah.
I will connect you.
Very good. Hey, look, I just wanted to show you this page as well very quickly, right? I talked so far about those specific use cases or problem statements or themes we are going to work on this year, what we have been doing last year. But beside those, right, we always have ideas and problems and projects where we also need third-party help and help of innovative startup companies. And what I just want to show you, and actually my colleagues are, no, it's already over. We're running this today without me, but every Thursday, we run a 1-hour session where startups in the digital health space can apply, right, to get a presentation slot. It's on Twitter Spaces, so just voice, no slides, no video, easy entry point to have a good conversation. So, right, if you know people who are interested to have a good conversation about startup solutions, we are always interested. Yeah, so this is something I just wanted to show you as well.
Cool, thank you. That's helpful just to stay on track and what's happening. That's cool. I think Frank had the last question. And Frank, I would like to allow you just to talk again about the type of ecosystem. That was the last questions you had.
Yes, thank you. So I think I have most experience with the self-organized, for example, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., where everyone can choose what he or she wants to do. But I'm curious to know your experiences from healthcare. What kind of ecosystems are important and growing? Does it go more towards some kind of process ecosystem like open innovation platforms, or Li and Feng in China, or is it more facilitated or centralized? Are you having a strong hand on what's going on, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting question, and honestly, I think all of the things you just described are happening here right now. You have like institutions that are very controlled, that when you want to enter this ecosystem, you have to kind of participate also with funding. You have things like that really come bottom up, right? Where large healthcare institutions run their own innovation programs or accelerators even. You have like governmental bodies or public institutions that initiate such kind of ecosystems. You have the big pharma, of course, in healthcare or life sciences, investing in those ecosystems as well. So there's a variety of different things. And I think this is important. And this is what this industry just needs to move forward. Yeah. I think we need all those models. We just need to find a way to connect as many as valuable partners with each other. And really, and this is also important, forget a little bit sometimes about this thought of, hey, this is competition, right? Yeah. And I mean, this is also something we had to learn to some point. And when you want to transform, right, in the digital space, when you want to move into that space, you have to first and foremost think about cooperation, co-creation, and in a second phase about competition, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
thanks.
I got the question again. Where's the page to apply? I just send it in the chat. If everyone can just check in the chat, I put in the link to the just recently launched website. You see there's a pre-apply to 2022 program, a button in the bottom, and good luck with it if you try to apply. So that's cool that you just take action. That's fine.
Yeah. And then when you are on LinkedIn or Twitter, follow the hashtag Edison Accelerator. We usually use this always for any kind of communication, so you follow what's going on there.
Awesome, that's pretty cool. So guys, thanks for the questions. I think it's quite interesting. I'm sure I will. We might have a follow-up maybe in a year or so, and just check what's happening on your side. Maybe some inside stories you'd like to share from startups who want to speak up as well. I personally would be interested in get some stories about how it really works from day-to-day practice. That would be interesting. And Jan, yeah, thanks for. Obviously, you spend some time instead of working with your colleagues to spend with us. That's awesome.
Thank you very much for having me, Steffen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks again for everyone who joined, and hope to see you again. We have the next session in the beginning of May, and I hope I can just see you again, guys. Thank you, and have a nice evening or a nice day, whatever time it is on your part of the planet.
Bye-bye.